You've been in the shadows, now step in the light. Rediscover your voice, take back your name. You're not just a mom, your power, your flame. From tired to thriving, from silence to song. With YDC you belong. Let's start living, rise again. You are more than just a pain. Confident, bold, unashamed. Your discovery coach, remember the name. You're strong, you're seen, you're free to dream. YDC, 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 remember the name. Hey mama, you're more than enough. Hey mama, stand tall, you've given so much. You gave your all, now it's time to shine. You've been in the shadows, now step in the light. Rediscover your voice, take back your name. You're not just a mom, your power, your flame. From tired to thriving, from silence to song. With YDC you belong. Let's start living.
Hey mamas, sorry about that glitch, that tiny glitch, but so good to have you on another Friday Live. My name is Debbie Echo, and I'm the founder of Your Discovery Coach, and this is a warm and welcoming space where we support women in rediscovering their voice and their power. So let's go. It's a space where you can come as you are, no judgment. It's not a judgment zone, it's a growth zone. So where you can connect with yourself, find your rhythm again, and breathe. Just take a breather. Now, I'm just going to ask you one very British question because I'm feeling very, I'm feeling very British this afternoon. How's the weather where you are? Where I am, it's kind of damp, dreary, but we find joy in whatever season and whatever situation we are in. And we move on. Yes, we move on. It's been wet, cold, snowy, all sorts of weather, up, down. But yes, we enjoy the weather, whatever it is. We find joy in every season. So let's welcome you to today's topic. Today's topic is all about making room for what is next. And this topic came to me, the way this topic came to me actually was in a very practical way. So there's this particular WhatsApp group that I belong to. And I was doing a bit of decluttering in the WhatsApp group, not anything big, not anything massive. But as I was decluttering this particular WhatsApp group, I looked through it and I realized that there were so many non-essential things taking up space, things that were no longer necessary, conversations that were not moving us forward. So instead of clarity, there was heaviness. Instead of progress, there was noise. And then as I sat with that, it made me reflect, on life in general. Because sometimes we are trying very hard to move forward. We are trying very hard to start new routines. It's the new year. People would say, new me, new year, new me, and things like that. You're trying very hard to start new routines, trying very hard to, move forward. And then you're trying hard to grow. You're trying to, do something new. But what often we don't realize is that sometimes we're already carrying too much weight. And then that's trying to move forward now becomes heavy, now becomes something that another thing that we are stuck with. So when we try to add something new, a new habit, a new routine, or a new direction, it now feels like it's not working. And that's why this topic, because it came from that reflection. You're trying to move forward, but there's so much weight from behind, from where you're coming from, and then you're not able to launch forward. And something that happens in the mind is you start to think, oh, this is about, am I going to fail again? Is it going to be another year again that I'm not going to move forward? It just feels there's a sense of heaviness, and then that's why I felt like this topic was so apt, especially because we're in the beginning of the year. It's not because the new thing you're trying to do is wrong, but it's because there's no space for it. So that brings me to this topic. Why do we need to make room for what's next? Why this topic? Because sometimes the problem isn't that you are not trying hard enough. The problem is that your life is already too full. And when something is already full, there's nowhere for anything new to go. Let me say that again. Because sometimes the problem is that you're not, is that it's not that you're not trying hard enough, but it's that your life is already too full. And when something is already full, there's nowhere for anything new to go. So let's look at why growth feels heavy, even when you are trying. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you are genuinely trying? You're trying your best. Your week is, you're told, wake up in the morning before 5, do this, do that, but you're trying your best. You're genuinely trying your best. You're reading the books that you've been, have been recommended for you. You're reading books to, broaden your mindset. You're doing the things that, pertaining to your growth. You're watching the videos, you're attending classes, you're attending Friday lives, you are setting intentions, you have done your vision board, you have visualized, you're even praying, but somehow nothing is shifting. I know that it can feel very frustrating on the outside, because on the outside it looks like you're doing so much, but on the inside you feel like you're stuck. And that can feel very frustrating. That can feel like you're not making any progress. And that's where I want us to reframe something, but I'm going to reframe it really gently. Growth does not begin with more effort. It begins with space. Now let's look at nature, for instance. If you wanted to start a farm or plant, start a maize farm or a whatever crop you want to plant, what's the first thing that you will do? You clear space. You don't just randomly go to a bush and then say, okay, there's a little sand here. You clear up the space. You use your cutlass, you use your hoe, depend on if depending on how large the scale of farming that you're doing. You do some weeding, you do some removing, you do some pruning. And that's why pruning is very necessary, for growth. You clear up the spaces. If you wanted to build a house, for instance, you clear the foundation, you clear the spaces that are there. So it's not about the more effort, it begins with space. Before anything grows, the ground has to be prepared, things are cleared, things are pruned. And pruning does not mean anything is wrong. Even for us, going to the hairdressers, they trip off, the dead ends of your hair before the thing can, really like, blow out again and grow again. So maybe what is keeping you stuck is that your life is already full and you haven't necessarily made space for something new. You haven't necessarily pruned, cleared, decluttered. Decluttering is something that gives me so much joy in my personal life. Oh, I love decluttering. I love to, create space for new things. It's hard for me to keep buying and not create space. I think I find it very, very stifling because you're piling up and building and building and building, but you can't even see the beauty of the new things that you have when everything is just, in one jammed cupboard. And pruning does not mean anything is wrong, like I've just said. It just means that something new is being made possible. So when you clear space, when you prune, when you declutter, when you create space for the new things, you're saying that I believe that new things are possible, growth is possible, new things can come into this space and take this space. But the problem is that as women, especially as mothers, we have this tendency to try and fill every gap. If there's a space, we try and fill it. If there's silence, we try and manage it. If there is a need, we try to meet it. So our lives are full. You're constantly on the go. And sometimes it's not because it's your fault, to be honest. It's not because it's your fault. It's not because, it's just the way it is. There's a calendar that needs to be filled. There's a planning that needs to be done. There's a child that needs to be taken to one school or the other. There's something that needs to be done. There's clearly always something that needs to be done. So it just feels like every gap in your life has something, there's no, on your calendar, there's no white space. There's no breather per se. When there's a need, you are rushing to meet that need. So then our lives become full and then we become tired, become busy, but we are not really expanding. And then that becomes a problem. You are active, but not necessarily moving forward. Busyness is not progress. To be everywhere doing everything and doing, and just, filling time with activities is not progress. Motion is also not movement. You can be on the move all the time. Some people, you call them, they're, I'm busy, I'm busy. Oh, sorry, I couldn't call you back, I'm so busy. Your life is constantly in motion, but it doesn't mean that there's any movement. When you look at yourself in the last 10 years, have you been busy? Have you just been, going through the motions? Are you growing? Is there any substantial growth or is it the same face? Somebody meets you 10 years ago and it's still the same face. Oh, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. But when we look, there's no tangibility to that busyness, to that movement. That sometimes the reason nothing new is growing is because there is no room. There's no room. There's no room for more. There's no pruning that has happened. The ground hasn't been cleared. You're planting, but you're planting the good seeds among the weeds. So it chokes it up. And then it becomes a problem. There's stagnation. I want us to look at the weight that we carry without realizing. This is where, this becomes really real, because the things that fill our lives are not always physical. It's sometimes expectations. So your expectation of someone else, say for instance, your spouse, let's use that for an example. You have expectations of what your marriage should look like. You have expectations of the behavior of your children. You have expectations of the behavior of your spouse. You have other people. You're carrying those expectations, and you have never really learned to drop it. So the expectations are not that they are wrong, but you are carrying the expectations in the wrong way. Let me give an example. When the Bible says something, when the Bible said, remove the log in your own eye, you are having expectations about somebody else's behavior, but you have never really, really looked inward to see what your own behavior is doing in that relationship. So you are focusing on every other thing minus yourself. So you have the right expectations, but the wrong outcomes. Sometimes it's emotional labor, constantly giving in the home, constantly, being the one to do everything. Your children have never really been taught to take responsibility. Your children have never really been able to own something else. You're constantly the one checking in. No one is checking up on you. Nobody. You tell yourself you're too busy for friendships. You don't have circles where you're connecting with any other person, and you're able to breathe. Just set your load down and breathe. You're sometimes carrying the weight of old routines that no longer fit. You're not able to transition from one phase of life to another phase. So you're carrying routines that no longer fit. Sometimes it's even relationships, friendships. It could be roles. It could be narratives that we've outgrown. These are emotional weights. These are weights that we carry without even realizing. And because we are carrying them for so long, we don't even notice the weight anymore. It becomes a part of you. So people identify it with you, or not people. Your nervous system identifies that with you. That's something that becomes part of you, becomes your personality or persona, right? But weight still affect movement. Doesn't matter what type of weight it is. It doesn't matter whether it's a good type. It doesn't matter it's because you're a mom. It doesn't matter because if I don't do it, nobody will do it. It will still affect your movement. And that's why when you say things like, I tried a new routine and it didn't stick, or I wanted to start something and I couldn't keep it up, it might not be a discipline issue. It might just be a capacity issue. It might just be that you haven't necessarily looked at your calendar or looked at your life and asked yourself, what can I drop to take this on? So you are doing so much, but you're telling yourself, you can even tell yourself things like, I'm lazy. I feel like I'm lazy. I'm not trying enough. But it's not in the trying. It's just that sometimes we really may need to drop something to pick up another thing. We really may need to drop old routines to pick up another thing. We really may need to drop old patterns to start a new pattern. you really may need to drop certain dynamics in your relationships, in your friendships, to start to do to start to do the things that you really want to do that can move you forward. So you can't buy a cup, or you can't pour into a cup, sorry, you can't pour into a cup that is already overflowing. It flows out. If you wanted to drink water, you have to the cup has to be empty for you to fetch water and to fill it. So you can't start, you can't you can't start to you can't pour into a cup that is already overflowing. You can't bring an overflowing cup and say, I want to put more water into it. It doesn't work that way. And this is very important, especially for us as mothers, because we are good at carrying everything, and carrying everything, especially that things that are not meant to be permanent. So at certain stage in your life, at certain seasons of your life, it's you will probably be the one carrying everything. But as your kids grow, as you grow in as your as you grow in the dynamics of your relationship with your spouse, for instance, you start to share certain loads. You tell yourself, I'm not going to be carrying this all through. Some mothers, it's very hard to let go. I was talking to somebody over the weekend. She was saying that I still try and choose our kids at the same age. Our kids are 8. And then she was like, I still choose what they will wear every morning. And I said, why don't you just leave? In my head, I was like, why don't you just leave that burden? Let the child choose. Teach her color combinations, teach her what's acceptable, teach her what's decent, but don't add another layer. So you're carrying so much. The child in that house cannot, as much as wash the plates, for instance. Good afternoon, Brenda. Thank you for joining us. The child cannot, for instance, wash the plate. You're carrying every single thing. You're not teaching them how to, be independent. Everybody is so dependent on you. You're not creating structures, because there's this sense of control that it gives to you when you know what is going on in everything, every in every aspect of their lives. There's this sense of control. Why don't you relinquish the control? Why don't you let go that control, and that trust that your guidance, what the way you are bringing them up, they will do well, so that you are able to, because these things that we're talking about is bandwidth. Like I always say, it's the same source of energy. It's bandwidth. You're thinking about what a 2-year-old wear, you're thinking about what the 15-year-old will wear, you're thinking about what they will eat, you are thinking about this, you're thinking about that. You've never really created systems in your home to help you around manage home management. It's hard for you to take on more. That's why you would say, oh, I didn't have time to do my reading, I didn't have time to do this, I didn't have time to do that. Why don't you look at your life right now and decide, what is the weight that I can put down right now, that another person in my family can take it up, be it even if it's a child, another person. So all my role will be, I'll be supervisory, but I will relinquish control, because control can be a serious weight that will not make you. So we are always seeing you busy, but there's no movement, which can be a very dangerous thing. Let me go on. I have 10 more minutes. So things that helped you to survive in one season. There are seasons in life, right? When your children are toddlers and so dependent on you, it's fine. But when they start to grow, can you let one season rest and enter into another season? Because they will come in with weight. If like I've just said, if you don't want to give up control, it's a weight. It's a weight. It's a weight. Survival tools are not always growth tools. Survival tools are not always growth tools. And if you don't intentionally release them, they quietly turn into cycles. You're moving, but you're circling. The circles will feel familiar, they feel safe, but circles don't always offer progress. Let's look at the people of Israel when they were in the wilderness. They were going round in circles and round in circles for 40 years. It felt like there was movement, there was manna, there was clothes, there was provision. It's not like there was this, the wilderness experience was, they were bereft of what to eat, what to drink. They were still drinking, they were still dancing, they were still celebrating, but they were not going anywhere. So we need to be careful of circles. What's in your life right now? I ask that question one more time. Do you need to break off from, so that you can move forward? This is a weight. This is a weight. This is a weight. So I want us to look at, identity level decluttering, because making room is not just only physical. It's also not always, it's also internal. You're not just making room physically. I talked about, buying new stuff. When I buy new stuff, I like to empty the old ones, because I need to, if I don't me personally, if I don't see space in my cupboard, it gives me grief. It gives me a lot of grief. So making space is not just physical, it's internal. Those expectations, we've talked about the expectations, the roles that you keep performing. Some of us will need to drop some roles and trust that, your guidance is enough. The timelines you keep punishing yourself with, you tell yourself that before 2020, before 2030, I want to be this, or by the end of the year I want to be this. You give yourself timelines. Becoming a better version of yourself does not have an end date. It doesn't have an end date. Every day you can improve. Every day you can, continuous improvement. Every day you can grow. So when you give yourself, unreasonable timelines, you put another level of expectation, level of weight that can stop you from growing and going forward. Or you tell yourself, oh, okay, everybody around me is now this and that, I've been at home, so and then you use comparison to stall your growth. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. When you say yes when you're already full, you keep saying yes. You don't know how to, you don't know how to set boundaries. Your table is full, your plate is full, as they say, but you don't know how to say no. You're putting yourself up for stress, and that can be that can be another weight that stalls growth. It's holding on to ways that of living that once protected you. It's telling yourself that this is how we've been doing it. Continuous improvement means that some things that have worked for you in the past may no longer be working for you now. It's okay to let go and let space for new growth. Because when you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, then that is not a wise way to live. You can't grow that way. You can't add more onto old ways of doing things, and you now become exhausted. You become, this feeling of, I'm not feeling satisfied with my life. I'm not feeling satisfied. It comes with carrying so much. You keep carrying, you keep carrying, you keep carrying. You need to let go. Pruning has to happen. I will say that again. Clearing spaces, even internal spaces, has to happen. It has to happen. So I'm going to offer you one simple framework. It's not anything big. It's not genge. I want you right now, as you're listening to me, to release. Write down the things you need to release, things that clearly belong to a past season. Even a friendship might belong to a past season. Yes, they're friends for a season. God might have brought somebody your way, or somebody might have come your way just for the season of life that you were in to help you. When you keep drawing yourself into relationships that you've moved, have naturally moved on, and or you even bear resentment, oh, they don't call me the way they normally used to call me before, it's something that can be a weight. So yes, even friendships, even relationships, even people, somebody may be available to help you for a season. Let the person go if the person is no longer available to help you in this season, instead of being resentful. So list the things that have helped you in your past season and release them. The second thing I want you to do is to pause. It's not everything that you think about that needs an immediate decision. Just pause. Ask yourself, is this something, do I need to take action about this right now, or do I not need to take action about this right now? And then the next thing is, you are preparing spaces. You are preparing spaces. It's not because you know what exactly is going to be coming, but because you trust that growth will meet you here. So you create spaces for growth. You start to, you can actually, it could be as something as simple as, waking up 30 minutes before to add 30 minutes extra into your journaling time. You're creating spaces for growth. Just creating spaces for growth. You're preparing for the days ahead. You're not waiting for war before you start to prepare for war. You're preparing yourself for the vision of yourself that you have in the future. So you prepare spaces for growth. You clear out things that don't really matter. You clear out things that are holding space but are not giving you any forward movement. You're not losing anything here as you're preparing spaces for growth. You're just repositioning yourself. You're repositioning yourself to, so that when you see, it's not when opportunity will only come to the prepared. It's not when the opportunity comes then you start preparing. So that's the third thing you're going to do. So look at your spaces, look at your routine, look at your calendar. Ask yourself, be sincere, ask yourself in your calendar, what needs to go? What habit needs to go as you look at your life? What habit do I need to start? Where do I need to clear spaces? If it's physical spaces, it does help. It's very cathartic. When you clear your physical space, there's something it does, even for you, in your heart, in your body, when you clear your physical space. So ask yourself internally, emotionally, are there friendships I'm holding on to? Are there are there clothes I'm holding on to that I have no business with? Make space, make room for what is next. That's what this topic is all about. Making room is not loss, it's preparation. So I want to be very clear about something here. Making room is not about, we're not saying that, you're losing everything. You're just, it's not about throwing away things recklessly. And it's also not about minimalism, just having a few. It's about essentialism. What's essential for me in this period? What's essential for me to grow? Even when you grow out of this period, for instance, you will still, it's continuous. You just find out that, so how do you know that you're growing? If you're still carrying the same weight, the same body, the same from years back. It's not about, you're not losing things per se. You're not losing things per se. You're making room. You're preparing. It's preparation. So I want us to I want you to apply this even in different spaces. You can apply it to your home. You can apply it to your time. Like we've said, I've talked about the home. You can apply it to your time. In your time, as you look at your schedule, what do you need to let go? How do you spend your time? Now, you can apply it to your emotional world. You can apply it to your identity. Do I need to keep on holding on to identity? Some of us, have this thing about, I'm afraid what my friends will say if I change per se. If I change. So when you're around them, you don't want to show them that you're now, a woman of depth, or you know what you're saying. So you're careful around them because you don't want to show this new identity that, I'm now a woman that is becoming what I need to become. So even your identity, are you ashamed of what you're becoming? Are you proud of what you're becoming? Sometimes the reason a new season feels heavy is because we are trying to carry old versions of ourselves into it. You're trying to fit into a life that no longer fits you. And growth does not work like that. You don't need to take everything with you. This is especially important in motherhood because somewhere along the line, many women have picked up the belief that good mothers carry everything. No, good mothers don't need to carry everything. We can delegate. We can teach the children. We can ask our spouses for help. And that's another thing, right? Sometimes you're too strong. You don't want to wait for help, or you don't want to partner. You just want to do everything by yourself. That's where growth stifles. You need to make room for what's next. But carrying everything doesn't make you a better mother. It just makes you that tired mother. And when you are tired, there's nothing that can happen. When you are tired, you're cranky, you're irritable, you're resentful, a lot of resentment. You don't understand why nobody's helping you. I'm the only one doing things in this house. Da 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 da. See, someone said even my husband screams, my wife, please delegate. Delegation is absolutely necessary. Can't carry everything by yourself. You can carry. What I stumbled upon someone's post on Facebook, and she said, even though I don't take her stance, but she said something about she doesn't do house chores, and I was like, and many women were coming under her. She said even when she was getting married to her husband, she told her husband that she doesn't know house chores, that her brain, her strength, her energies for making money. Apparently, she makes the money, so she makes a lot of money. That she does her strength, her energies for making business. Even though I believe in doing chores because I'm also using it's also a way for me to teach my children. But I understood what she was saying. A lot of times we're just bogged down with those chores, with those, you're constantly in the kitchen, constantly doing your own everything. You're constantly, you're carrying the world as if, if you don't do it, this world will crash. It's not true. If they don't do it your way, it will crash. It's not true. Allow room for growth, allow room for what's next. Your way is not always the way, the right way. Somebody might have an opinion about how the house needs to be arranged, maybe the first daughter or the second daughter, or the husband. Don't say, oh, no, 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 it has just to be this way. Make room for what's next, because these are the little things that steal our bandwidth, little things that steal our energy. And then we realize that we have just gone weeks and months and years. And how have we grown as moms? We need to be very careful as we make these decisions, as we go about as we go about our role. Let's also realize that there's something bigger than trying to control everything in the house. It's something bigger than that. There's a purpose for which you were born. My song says, hey, mama, let's start living. Living is literally way beyond, just being in the kitchen, being in the house, or even being in an office, because there's a bigger purpose for which you were born. Making room is not selfish. Making room is stewardship. You're actually also teaching the people around you to take stewardship. You're not the only one, living in a house. You're teaching your children stewardship. You're teaching your husband stewardship. And you're also stewarding because you're helping them to do the right things. You're not removing value from your life. You're only repositioning for it. So I want us to do just this gentle reflection as I close. I want you to think about one area of your life. We've done that already, but this is just to, emphasize what I've said, and slow down for a minute. Just think about one area of your life. One, it could be your schedule, it could be your home, it could be even the expectations you have of yourself. I was talking to somebody recently, and I was telling the person that, sometimes you just want, so let's use weight loss, because that's my favorite example. You want to lose weight, but you want it fast. So you set nasty expectations that you can't meet, crazy expectations that you can't meet, and then you start to feel bad. Even the expectations of yourself, be kind and be gentle. Your growth journey is not one day, it's not 1 year, it's continuous. So set down those expectations, look at those expectations, ask yourself, are my goals smart? Are they realistic? Are they measurable? Are they specific? Is it time bound? Is it realistic? That's what I'm looking for. Can I actually achieve it in this time, or do I need to give myself time? It could be something that you keep saying yes to. It could be your boundaries. Some people keep on, intruding on your boundaries. And I want you to ask yourself one quiet question. What is taking up space here that no longer supports where I'm going? Where am I holding on to what am I holding on to out of habit, but not intention? What would feel lighter if I allowed myself to release it? It could be a friendship. If I allowed myself to release, this guilt feeling that if I don't call somebody, I've scattered everything. Just release it. Release all the guilt. Release all the fear. Release it. Release it. Release it. And let's make space. Let's make room for what's next. You don't have to act on it just today. You don't have to do it out of pressure. Awareness is your first form of change. Just be aware. Be aware of what I'm saying now. As I'm talking to you, I'm sure that as you're listening to me, I'm sure there are areas in your life where you're like, okay, yes, it's time. because your body knows there's this inner witness that happens inside of you. You know that this thing it's time to drop it, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you can walk, you can run with that, you can run with that from today. So our practical realistic next steps would be, you could you could your growth happens in small intentional pockets. You could do one thing, like empty a drawer. Oh, I have said it again. I love to declutter. It's something I love to do. Just empty one drawer. It's symbolic, it's cathartic. It's something it does for your mind. You can look at your table and say, okay, this, sometimes you tell yourself you're going to do this. So you fill up your table, with so much to do's. Even your to-do list, look at it and ask yourself, what can I drop today? So that I'm not, because when you don't do those things, I'm giving you permission to drop it. Because when you don't do those things and you're carrying the guilt, is that carrying the guilt that also, makes you draw back. You're carrying the guilt of, my to-do list had 10 things and I only did one thing. So I'm giving you that permission today. Drop that thing that has been on your to-do list that has not been able to move. Just drop it. Maybe when you start afresh, when you recalibrate, then you can take it on. It's not a laziness issue, it's a capacity issue. Some things you will need to grow into capacity to be able to carry so much. It could be your routine, just simplifying your routine, for instance. You could be simplifying your journaling process. I give you permission today if that's such a burden for you. It could be one expectation from yourself. Lose 10 kg in 10 days. Doesn't work like that. Just release it and make room for what's next. So just, with this in mind, you can ask yourself simple questions like this. Does this create growth for space? You want to take up something. Ask yourself this question. Does this create growth? Does this create space for growth, or does it keep me circling? One question you should be asking yourself, often, when you take on something, when you take up another appointment, when you take up another helping request, you want to help somebody, you want to take up another, pushing your boundaries and saying yes to things that your mind is telling you to say no to. When you just one sound check, does this create space for growth, or does it keep me circling? When you want to put one more thing on top of your plate is full, you're dangling, ask yourself one question: does it keep me circling? Because when you let's use people asking you for requests for an example. People are constantly asking you for requests, and you know that you don't have the bandwidth to take one more, but because you are still learning how to say no, you're still learning, oh, everybody needs help, I just feel sorry for the whole world, I want to carry the whole world on my chest. And then you take one more thing, and then you take it, you start to feel angry. Why did I even take this thing? Why did I say yes? Why am I helping? Why am I withdrawing another big amount of money to help this person? And then you start to feel resentful, you start to feel pained. Remember that these feelings, these emotions can also block you. So when you're about to take on something, ask yourself, pause, does this create space for growth, or does it keep me circling? This question alone can help you, guide your decisions, because when you create space, something powerful happens. In the beginning, we talked about how, you want to grow a farm. You don't just go to a random land, you clear the space. And that's what happens. Something powerful happens when you clear the space. Something powerful happens when you prune. You start to gain clarity, and clarity then gives you choice. And choice is exactly where your power lives. When people take when life takes the power of choice from you, or when people take the power of choice from you, they've taken away your power. Your power lies in the kind of choices you can make. So this is just an invitation as I close. I want to close with this. What's next for you doesn't need you to rush. It doesn't need you to force change. It doesn't need you to carry everything forward. It needs you to be available. You need to be available to new rhythms, available to growth, available to the version of yourself you're becoming. So this week, don't aim to do more. Calm down, make room, clear spaces, Let there be space. Let's clear out the things that have been causing you to circle. And if this conversation stirred something in you, and if it's helped you name what you've been feeling, but you couldn't explain, this is exactly the kind of work I do inside my Becoming Her program. It's not about fixing women. I'm not trying to fix anybody. I'm not trying to overwhelm moms. It's a very simple program, works around your schedule, works around you as a mom. And but in that program, I will help you to create space for who you are becoming. I'll help you to create space for who you are becoming. And thank you so much for spending the last 41 minutes with me. I said I was going to make this 30 minutes, but I have extended my time. If you would like to sign up for the next cohort of the Becoming Her program, the link will be on the bio of this YouTube page. And thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you next week, Friday. Till then, remember, make space. And hey, mamas, let's start living. Let's start living. Thank you.